Oh god, the cat's eating cables. Today I'm going to talk about my 3 least favorite Adirondack high peak hikes. Don't hate me. For number 3, I'd say Street and I. Not that it wasn't a shorter hike, a more accessible hike, except for the first water crossing, which when I went was a little bit high. There's really nothing at the top. You kind of just get to the end and you figure you're there and you move on to the other one and you check them off a list. So they're definitely not one I would take someone who's getting into hiking or wants to hike the F46. It's really not awe-inspiring. It was a nice day when I went, but it was a bit humid, but that was kind of more of an environmental condition thing. But in the end, I was kind of underwhelmed, which is fine. That's not the point of those on the list, but they were just kind of check off items, and then I moved on. I actually don't even have any photos of that hike that I could find because the views from the summit are extremely limited. So that's my number 3. My number 2 least favorite hike was Ellen. Now, Ellen was a phenomenal journey. It had an incredibly challenging water crossing, which I did at the lowest possible time that I could find to actually do the water crossing. There is a somewhat decent view from the summit and some pretty cool views along the way. The downside is it's about 20 flippin' miles long, and I unfortunately parked at the Upper Works parking lot instead of the actual parking lot, and then had to hear my hiking partner guilt trip me for several miles, saying, "Boy, I wish the car was a half of a mile closer." So, lessons learned. And my number 1 least favorite hike, for mostly just a personal vendetta, is the hike called Couch. I'll put out the name here. That one, it was kind of a weird thing when I went there because there were like birds that were kind of coming up to me, which was strange. I did it as part of a loop with Panther and Santanoni, but it's like going all the way down into a bog, doing a very controlled type walk rope across varying dead logs, which is how in New York we do our bridges. That's our engineering, is a tree fell down in the forest and now it's a bridge. But anyways, yeah, so go all the way down to go all the way back up. You go okay, and you have to go back through the bog. I felt very fortunate with my balancing skills because I did not look like some of the other people who I met along the trail that day that had water logged mud up to their midsection. They must have tripped because you kind of walk through a bog. I really do my best to stay on the trail with every single hike because I want to try to keep those trails as maintained as possible, and part of that is follow the trails where they are and where they're labeled. So my understanding was it was through the bog across the logs that were laid out. So that's my number 1 least favorite hike. If you are working on the Adirondack 46 and want some sort of tracking system that you can display, I make signs like this and this for the various high peaks challenges around the Northeast where I am based. All that being said, with winter hikes approaching, make sure you stay safe as you set goals, embrace random, and live your adventure.